Wreckage was strewn across Wine Country Drive after this Toyota Hilux ute crashed head-on into this semi-trailer carrying 30 pallets of leather hides just before 10 o'clock this morning. The force of the collision ruptured the truck's fuel tank and caused a series of explosions. Flames then took hold of the front of the vehicle and sparked a bushfire.
The RFS dealt with that. There's very bad conditions right now, high temperatures, very dry, and we're dealing with a lot of fires in the area.
Firefighters also worked to mop up 1,000 litres of diesel fuel which spilled onto the roadway and decant another 200 litres from the semi. Incredibly, the driver of the truck, only identified as a 56-year-old man, escaped with minor injuries. He was taken to Singleton Hospital for mandatory blood tests. The driver of the other vehicle, aged in his 50s and believed to have been a local, wasn't as lucky.
Unfortunately, the driver of the four-wheel drive is deceased.
While investigations are ongoing, it's believed the driver of the ute was at fault. Police say they've found evidence that he was driving on the wrong side of the road when the collision took place. Wine Country Drive was closed in both directions until early this afternoon. Madeline McKell, NBN News.
Nestled on Bar Beach, the Cooks Hill Surf Club has been home to the area's lifesavers for 100 years, and the old rendered brick building could soon make way for something more modern.
First stage is extending to the north, toward the guard tower. We're looking to put in a club room and some additional showers and toilets, and then come back and look at taking out stage 2, which is this part of the old building, and rebuilding that with a bigger members' room along with more storage downstairs for craft.
The plans have been lodged with Newcastle Council. The extra space and facilities are desperately needed to cope with an influx of members.
We started in 1911 with 25 people. It's grown through the 1940s with 60 people, and to the current day of over 1,700, and 700 of those plus are nippers.
Meantime, the new Bar Beach skate park opened this afternoon to the delight of the region's board riders. The centrepiece of the $500,000 facility is a large bowl, considered quite tricky to ride, but plenty of skaters are this evening putting their skills to the test.
The warning signs were there, and before too long, the region's fire crews were in action. This blaze at Gateshead closed the Pacific Highway and gave those standing by a reminder of perhaps what's to come.
We don't like it, but that's what we prepare for, that's what we all train for, and that's what we're here to do.
Our hospitals were also preparing for the worst.
Unfortunately, people believe that they're used to summer temperatures, but not this sort of sustained temperature, and so it's very important that people actually take prevention action so that we don't overwhelm the hospitals.
It seemed most were doing their best to beat the heat.
Where we live in Cambridge in England, the coldest December, not just in living memory, but I think since records began. So we're quite enjoying it, actually.
Some sought refuge in the surf, but only the brave dared to leave.
If you go to a beach without sand, it'll be all right.
At Nobby's, the mercury went from 25.7 at 9 o'clock this morning to 37.9 by 2 p.m. But it got hotter elsewhere. Cooranbong recorded 39.4. Williamtown was 4 degrees short of a February record at 40.9. Energy Australia says electricity use reached record levels in the Hunter last night, and it was expecting a new high by the end of today. Nat Wallace, NBN News.
"20 years ago, when I was a much younger mum, I dropped my first son off here, very nervous, and today I'm just that little bit nervous too.
The Trousdale family's home of 24 years is now a burnt-out shell after it was deliberately set alight at 2 a.m. While the rest of the family was sound asleep, Brett was working on his computer when he smelled smoke.
All of a sudden I noticed that the side of the house was on fire, so I opened the door to try and get out, and the whole door was on fire.
Sharon, who's 8 weeks pregnant, her partner Darren and 8-year-old daughter Shelby were sleeping in this room when the fire took hold. They were mere metres from where it began.
My brother burst in the door and said the house was on fire, get the heck out. So then we just, my boyfriend grabbed my daughter and ran out, and we followed, and it just all went from there. And yeah, the house just pretty much burnt down around us.
There was no time to grab any possessions. The fire engulfed the building within a few minutes.
Just took hold and we barely got out because we couldn't breathe, we couldn't see, it was just smoke everywhere.
What's worse, preliminary police investigations have revealed the blaze was deliberately lit.
The people that were investigating, they found accelerant on the front veranda where the fire was lit.
Today, the family was struggling to come to grips with the loss.
It's sort of a bit hard at the moment.
Lake Macquarie detectives want to hear from any witnesses. Madeline McKell, NBN News.
Did not believe me. It took about 2 hours, 4 phone calls to the business.
Accelerates a little bit quicker than the old workmate. So.
Suspended for the Jets' next 2 games and soon to be out of pocket, Ryan Griffiths knows his send-off on Sunday for dissent was unacceptable.
Just what was said, because there's an inference there that you've called the referee a cheat.
I'm not going to lie, I heard the word cheat. I didn't say it. I did give him some stern words. I've put my hand up, I've made a mistake.
A mistake which is also set to cost him in a club-imposed fine, something his coach Branko Kalina avoided despite a post-game blow-up with Wellington mentor Ricky Herbert. Shaking hands on full time, the pair quickly got into a war of words, with Kalina giving as good as he got before Herbert walked away. In Melbourne, ahead of tomorrow night's game against the Victory, Kalina denied there's a different set of rules for him. However, Griffiths wasn't so sure today.
Hopefully he'll put his hand up and say, he made a mistake, which he already has. After the game he said that. If they fire me, then it's only fitting that he should probably get a little cheeky one as well.
The under-strength Jets must beat the Victory tomorrow to keep realistic finals hopes alive. It's one of the more brutal and physically demanding sports around, but a girl has still got to look her best. Amelia Matheson won't care about the hair tonight, just the look of green and gold that she'll wear for the first time.
I never thought it would happen, and of course I'm going to jump on the opportunity, so I worked my butt off to get here, and yeah, it's awesome.
She's not the only one. Kath McOney travels from Erina to play at Warners Bay once a week, and the Australian team veteran can't wait to represent at home.
To have my parents come and see me play because they always support me through everything that I do. They haven't seen me play ice hockey for Australia before, so it'd be great for them to actually be able to come and watch.
It all starts with Belgium tonight as they begin the campaign to claim the Division 3 World Championship for a second time. Coach Rocky Pageant was in charge back then as well, but reckons this squad is even better.
This would be our best national women's team we've ever had. Girls coming back from Canada. We've got young rookies who are way higher than we've ever had before. There's no weak spots, and we got wheels. This team can really move.
They'll have to in this simple game of numbers. You must win all 5 matches, and if passion means anything, Australia has a huge chance.
Hockey's been part of my life since I was very young, so yeah, to be able to do this, and especially in my home ring, because you know, in front of my friends and my family, I just can't wait.
"9,000 drivers had their say on what they believe to be the most frustrating roads in the state. Coming in at number 8, the intersection of the New England Highway and the Pacific Highway at Hexham, and the sign says it all.
This is an area that has significant congestion, and obviously there's a high feeling of frustration with this major intersection.
And many other roads across the Hunter. Also of concern were Nelson Bay Road, Carey Street at Toronto, Broke Road for Colburn, the New England Highway at Maitland, and finally the Hexham intersection.
There's 50 odd days leading up to the next state election. NRMA calls on all candidates in the upcoming election to take notice of these results and that roads are a major election issue.
Tyson Cottrell, NBN News.
Tagging businesses is nothing new, but the latest vandalism hitting business is more damaging. Vandals using professional etching tools, as well as things like broken CDs, are scratching their tags into glass and even using acid.
They actually get acid and they scroll on the glass and the acid burns into the glass.
The etching is not only an expense for business owners, but in most cases the glass is replaced, ending up in landfill. One Newcastle business is looking to stop the waste by resurfacing the glass, and he's had overwhelming demand.
So it's virtually like a sandpaper with certain grits. It goes down, we go down in grit size, and then the final polish is we use a certain solution that we use to polish out the real fine scratches.
They call themselves Team Tandem. John DeMandel and his pilot Tony Brown plotting a course few have dared to travel. Born with a condition which has caused his eyesight to slowly deteriorate, John hasn't let life pass him by, competing in everything from Ironman triathlons to sailing events. Then, midway through his 40s, he feared his time on two wheels was over.
Over the last 5 years, my eyesight has deteriorated quite rapidly, and I have to reevaluate certain things I do in my life, and one of the things was stop riding a solo bike.
Now, a tandem bike has given the 50-year-old a new lease on life. John remortgaged his house and has spent almost $12,000 perfecting the custom-designed, American-built creation. They've only had it for 3 weeks, but the pair has wasted no time getting acquainted.
We've done a lot of training. We've been out Sugarloaf, the Wattigans. We've done some real hardcore stuff, and we're working really well as a team, which is good. It's making me happy because it's pretty scary on the back of the bike.
At times, Tony literally has John's life in his hands.
For John, it's the hardest thing is for him not knowing what he's about to hit, and it's the bumps and it's the jolting of the neck and the jarring that he cops.
This weekend's 12-hour event at Wiseman's Ferry represents their first race together, but it certainly won't be the last.
He keeps threatening to blindfold me and put me on the back.
The support that we've had has been sensational. We've probably had more materials offered than we've been able to put into the container, so we had to be a little bit selective as to what was being able to go, but it looks like we're going to fill it all up.
Try telling anyone Glad Dent is 92 and they probably won't believe you. She spent the last 12 years in the Calvary Martyr Newcastle Auxiliary.
It gets me out amongst other people and that, and then I can do different things that I couldn't do otherwise.
And 2 of those years in the top job.
When they asked me to be president, well, I just didn't think I'd be able to do it.
But she has, and very successfully. Last year, the auxiliary gave the hospital $136,000, every cent going to equipment for cancer patients.
Great lot of pleasure. When I go to bed of a night, you know, I can just think, well, at least you've done something to help somebody else.
One of the auxiliary's main ways of fundraising is through this lolly stand. Bags cost just $1, but amazingly, last year they made a profit of $26,000.
It's hard to credit that she's 92 years of age and she's got as much energy as the members.
She's an absolutely remarkable lady. You know, her energy and her enthusiasm at her age, it's an inspiration.
But don't ever suggest Glad should start taking things easier. In fact, if she had her way, she'd be doing more.
If I was younger, I'd be up trying to help them up at the floods. I'd like to be able to help people.
But for now, she'll continue assisting those closer to home.
As long as I can, as long as my health helps out, I'll be doing it.
Tyson Cottrell, NBN News.
Six of the so-called Rising Tide 7 were in court for the second day of a hearing relating to a protest which disrupted coal movements for more than 10 hours. Defence barrister Ken Avere told Magistrate Elaine Truscott she couldn't be satisfied the $525,000 figure being sought by PWCS is the actual loss, and regardless, it caught up any lost time. The police prosecutor representing PWCS added nothing in court, but CEO Graham Davidson had this to say outside.
The coal industry pays for that capacity, whether they ship coal or not. It has nothing to do whether we could catch up or not catch up.
The defence also argued PWCS's claim is not the kind envisaged under the Victims' Compensation Act. The case was adjourned until the 3rd of March.
It doesn't matter what the court finds on the 3rd of March. It's really about drawing a line and saying they have to change their behaviour.
I was a bit disappointed that we haven't had an outcome because I think climate change is such a serious concern and that we need to see corporate bullying stop.
Donatella is a most unlikely hero. She's already got 6 tiny mouths to feed, but this week fed 4 more. On Monday night, dog rescuer Anne Ward received word that 9 puppies had been found inside a bag dumped in a cemetery. Following temperatures over 40 degrees, just 4 were still alive.
They rang us and asked if we had a dog with pups. I said no, but I've got a cat, we'll take them.
And take them she did. Donatella fed them through that first crucial night until dog breeder Mary Kerr could take them and introduce them to new mum Honeybun. Even then, there were fears the pups might not survive.
She's a little bit unpredictable and I thought she wouldn't take them, but yeah, no, she settled down all right with them.
And what kind of mother is she proving to be?
Good, very good. A champion mother.
They're now 3 days old and are yet to open their eyes, but the pups are gaining weight and, by the look of things, thriving. While these tiny puppies have already overcome some huge obstacles in their short life, they still face one big hurdle, and that's finding a new loving home. Madeline McKell, NBN News.
He's been one of the Jets' best all season, but Nikolai Topor-Stanley could soon follow former defensive partner Lubo Milicevic out of Newcastle. The coach was being cryptic last night, but today the club's CEO was optimistic about resuming contract negotiations.
Disappointed it hasn't been finalised at this point in time, but having said that, we're still hopeful that it'll be resurrected and hopefully Nikolai will be a Newcastle Jets player next season.
Topor-Stanley is one of 11 players coming off contract, including Job Wheelhouse and Adam DePuzzo. The club has started talks with a handful of the group, but has also begun looking elsewhere. Striker Ryan Griffiths has revealed he's been in contact with several internationals from Eastern Europe, who have expressed an interest in joining the Jets.
You know, they're on really good contracts, and that's half the battle, is to be able to lure them to the lifestyle side of playing in Australia, and hopefully I can do that.
As for the current squad, its dreams of making the finals are hanging by a thread following last night's 2-0 loss to Melbourne. Ben Kennedy was one of the Jets' busiest players, but was powerless to stop this. Minutes later, a challenge by Marcello Fiorentini had the referee seeing red, and the Jets facing up to having another player on the sideline. Things went from bad to worse when returning Socceroo Robbie Cruz finished off a classy move to kill off the contest. Despite the loss, Branko Kalina isn't giving up on the finals just yet.
You know, we've still got 3 games to go. 2 of them are at home, and you never know.
Well, the cyclone now is moving over land, and that's creating friction at the bottom or the base of the cyclone. So the top still spins very, very quickly, but the bottom half spins slowly, so it starts to shear and weaken the storm as it moves inland. But what it's going to do is take a huge amount of moisture with it over central Australia. That cloud will cool central Australia. We've seen so much heat that's been funneling south across mostly New South Wales, but then we've got a front that's going to come through Monday. That will collide and we'll probably see more significant inland rain and possibly more flooding. Once all of the remnants of this cyclone move in, it's not exactly moving in over a completely dry interior now, because the remnants of Anthony have gone through ahead of it, and that's been producing cloud, showers, rain, storms. That's moving around to the south. So this is going to come in behind it, and of course we've seen all of the rain during the past season, so the rivers are full once again, all those inland lakes and dams. So this on top of it, we'll probably see extensive flooding. This event will continue for another couple of days at least. We're still expecting more cyclones to develop in the weeks and probably the months ahead. So we're not completely off the hook just yet. We still have a ways to go until this La Nina weakens and also the cyclone and storm season closes for another year.
Office space like this is fast becoming priceless. Over the past 12 months, demand for A-grade space in Newcastle CBD has almost outstripped supply, to the point where just 5.6% is available for rent. According to the Property Council, there's several factors drawing businesses in.
Our local employment market is strong. We've got a good skill base. It's a very diverse skill base. Unemployment's low.
And it's not just top-end offices being snapped up. So-called B, C and D grade office space is also in demand, with just 11.5% vacant. Already, A-grade rental prices are on par with North Ryde and North Sydney, and there are no new developments forecast for completion here over the next 12 months. The Property Council says unless the state acts to rectify Newcastle's mine subsidence issues and the City Council cuts its inner city Section 94 levy of 3%, the city's vacancy rate won't improve and business growth could be stifled.
The rents are likely to increase as people look to pay a little bit more to secure what space is available. In the immediate term, it will probably simply mean that people can't move into the area or can't move from one location to another.
You know an election campaign is around the corner when candidates are out in their swimmers. But no budgie smugglers here. Just Andrew Cornwell contesting the seat of Charlestown for the Liberals and Shadow Minister Melinda Pavey spruiking the Coalition's water safety plan. And they had a captive audience as temperatures soared. The main focus of the proposal is moving water safety into the emergency services portfolio.
Currently it's over 5 agencies and no one's taking charge of the situation.
As well as more money for education.
Getting parents to know how dangerous waterways are. A blink of the eye, you can miss where your child is and they don't make a sound when they go under the water.
And $8 million for a black spots fund.
I think by providing some financial assistance, some of these black spots that hazardous areas for both children and adults alike, we'll be able to alleviate those.
Meanwhile, the first of what will be many candidate forums was held in Newcastle this morning. Hosted by the Older Women's Network, candidates from the Newcastle electorate, which will be an extremely tight battle, as well as those vying for other seats, worked on perfecting their messages 51 days before we head to the polls. Kate Mitchell, NBN News.
Merewether High School needs these courts refurbished, so $60,000 plus they will get, and it's really good news for the school.
That way we'll be able to offer more programs for students, and the benefits will flow on to not only our students but other students from other schools that come to play and the community.
This footage was captured moments after the chopper came down and exploded on impact.
It's quite clear that the aircraft has hit the runway quite heavily.
As the thick black smoke drifted away, the damage became clear, as did just how remarkable it is that the pilot survived.
He's a very, very lucky man.
The man, believed to be local, was able to free himself from the wreckage just before the explosion. He still suffered burns and was airlifted to Newcastle's John Hunter Hospital, where he's in a serious but stable condition. Sadly, the two middle-aged passengers didn't make it out alive. Witnesses say people were on the scene with small fire extinguishers within a minute, but by the time they got to the chopper, it was well and truly destroyed.
That's certainly a matter for the coroner. It would appear from the impact that it's quite likely that it was fairly instant.
All three men were experienced pilots and were undertaking a re-accreditation flight. The four-seater Robinson belonged to Newcastle-based company Aero Logistics, which boasted an unblemished safety record. The Australian Transport Safety Bureau is investigating.
I'm still unclear as to how long the airport will be closed, and that will be subject to the investigation and the Australian Transport Safety Bureau's investigation, but it will be quite some time.
Lauren Bladwell, NBN News.
Under Newcastle Council's proposed master plan, all this could go from Blackbutt. The idea is to build a new education centre here and shift the current structures elsewhere, then build an administration building near the kangaroo enclosure. Members of the Blackbutt support group say they know the reserve better than anyone and are unhappy the plan's been created without their consultation.
As well as all the costs involved, it just doesn't seem to make any real sense to us, that's all. And we're just trying to negotiate a change in location for this building.
This vacant patch of land is where the group wants the new multi-purpose centre to go. They say having it there would be much easier for visitors to access and also negate the need to remove the park's existing Pioneer Cottage.
Tomorrow the group will take its concerns to the Lord Mayor, who looks like lending a sympathetic ear.
They tell me they've been fobbed off. Well, it's not good enough.
He says he doesn't support the master plan in its current form.
A high-quality bushland reserve like this will be lost if we don't protect it.
Madeline McKell, NBN News.
We think that in the Hunter region that there's been a bit of a lag in this message getting across to the general community, because we know, for example, that we still have an issue in the Hunter region with early school leavers.
Five consecutive scorches have taken a toll on Hunter residents' health.
Particularly in the last 24 hours, we've seen an increase in our most elderly, vulnerable population. We've had a lot of elderly patients presenting dehydrated after collapse. They've been confused, dizzy, fainting, vomiting.
Staff at John Hunter Hospital are urging the elderly in particular to take better care of themselves, and they're advising anyone who's feeling the effects of the heat to stay indoors, drink plenty of water, put a cool towel around their neck and turn on any air conditioners or fans. So far, this February has been one of the hottest on record, with the monthly daytime maximum 9 degrees above average. According to Energy Australia, this week Hunter residents have also smashed the region's energy use record. And with more people than ever rushing out to buy air conditioners, retailers are also benefiting.
Our portable air conditioners have been walking out the door, pretty much sold out of everything underneath $500.
Madeline McKell, NBN News.
In 1991, around 800 babies were admitted to the neonatal intensive care unit. 20 years later, that number is up to almost 1,200 and resources are stretched.
The space is actually about half or even less than half of what's recommended now.
Hunter New England Health is now developing a submission to build a new nursery to help parents like Justin and Trudy. Their daughter Layla was born 13 weeks premature. She's likely to be here for another 10 weeks. The Salem family is living proof of the value of this unit and its staff. Today they took a trip down memory lane.
I found sleep pretty difficult for the first couple of months, thinking, is that breath going to be their last? And I should be there for that. So, we were coming up and forth at all odd hours of the evening.
Their children, Mariana and John, were both born more than 11 weeks premature. Mariana weighed just 820 grams. So small, her father George could fit his wedding ring past her bicep.
I look at my ring every day and I look at her every day and I think, wow, how lucky are we?
16 years later, she wants to become a film director.
I'm hoping to sort of go and study that at uni, or I don't know, something might come up tomorrow and I might want to be something else, but for now that's the dream.
Thanks to this unit, thousands more babies will live to dream. Mitchell Hughes, NBN News.
Need proof anyone can swim? Well, here it is. Laurie Lawrence is still spreading the safety message as only he can. Today he was joined by his 2-year-old granddaughter Evie and Cody, son of Olympic medalist Justin Norris.
We're heading around Australia. I'm trying to get a challenge race in every capital city all around Australia, looking for a baby swimming champion.
The first heat was raced today. And the bar was set high.
The challenge is on. You saw how fast Evie was, mate. What a champion.
But it's not about who wins, but showing you're never too young to learn water safety. Laurie's put together a new DVD.
That's going free to the parents of every newborn in Australia for the next 4 years as a drowning prevention measure.
And you need to do something about it, you need to have an awareness of it, and you need to get started with all the Kids Alive messages for sure. And there's never, you can't start next week, you've got to start now.
Last year, 33 kids drowned in backyard pools across Australia. And this year, Laurie Lawrence is once again pushing the swim safe message.
We're after 0, that's the number we want.
And there are just 5 rules to remember.
Keep kids alive, do the 5. Fence the pool, shut the gate. Teach your kids to swim, it's great. Supervise, watch your mate, where's that baby? She's back. And learn how to resuscitate.
Tyson Cottrell, NBN News.
It was a long trip just for them to reach Greymouth, but the Knights know that's nothing compared to what this community has gone through in the Pike River mine disaster.
Newcastle's a big mining town itself, so it's sort of relevant in terms of where we're from and what happened down here, and myself being from New Zealand, it means quite a bit.
There's been some solemn remembrance mixed with good cheer, but there's also a game to prepare for, and the Knights will have plenty on their plate when it kicks off tomorrow night. It's left many of its high-profile players at home, but the Warriors certainly aren't messing about, preparing to start all of their star off-season recruits, including Sean Berrigan, along with former Eels Krishnan Inu and Felitia Mateo.
Mate, I sort of play off the cuff, I like to play what's in front of me, and usually when I'm not huffing and puffing.
At the moment I'm always focusing on what's in front of me, and that's working hard for the Warriors.
And this is where they'll be playing. Wingham Park, a ground which will try to accommodate 5,000 for a game all the locals are looking forward to.
It's been spit and polished. It's like a family wedding coming up and we want it to look good.
Jim Callanan, NBN News. Given all that the club is facing at present, a public spat with its star defender is the last thing it needs. The coach, for one, is trying to remain optimistic. The deal isn't dead.
We're working with Nikolai on that. We're dealing with it. It's not that the club's not just sitting back and saying we're not doing anything.
It certainly hasn't gone down well with Nikolai Topor-Stanley, who preferred not to speak on camera today but did confirm to NBN that he never said he wanted to leave and that he made it clear since day one he wanted to stay. Topor-Stanley also stressed he remains committed to finding a compromise. However, his immediate concern is helping his club reach the finals. That's going to be a tough ask for a team down on troops through injury and suspension. The Jets must win their 3 remaining games, starting at home against Sydney on Sunday.
This is the game that we really have to win. I hate using the word have to or must, but if you don't get the 3 points on Sunday, you're not going to get the 40 points that you require.
Kalina is still trying to finalise a side for his team's 3rd match in 7 days, with Ali Abbas the only one on the injured list who's showing any signs he may be ready to return.
When you get desperate, you'll do anything, but at the moment he hasn't trained for 4 weeks, so just because he was there for half an hour, so it doesn't rule him fit.
Jim Callanan, NBN News.
It's particularly rugged terrain, and the New South Wales Police called in officers from the Newcastle Rescue Squad to assist with the retrieval of the body.
On one side, there's the protesters, 400 people who surf, sunbake and holiday at Catherine Hill Bay. In a sea of red and braving extreme heat, this morning they got their message across. They're against Rose Group's latest proposal to build 554 homes on nearby land, saying it will ruin the town's quaint charm.
And they're saying, what? This is not saved? This can't happen. You can't have development on that beautiful headland over there. You can't destroy Moonee. And so we thought, let's put a protest together on the beach for the people who love Catho.
On the other side of the argument are some of the Bay's full-time residents who claim the town is dying.
Growing up here, we had shops and everything that we could get, everything. We had the butcher and baker that delivered bread and everything. And now there's not enough residents to even have a small shop here.
These are the best plans that we've seen so far, and I believe that they should be approved by state government.
Developer Brian Rose says protesters' claims are inaccurate and is unmoved by their actions.
We know what we're doing is right. It's right for the area. It's a very sympathetic, correct development, and it's the right thing.
The plan is on public exhibition until Monday. Madeline McKell, NBN News.
After winning the toss and electing to bat on a flat Adelaide pitch, Victoria got away to a flyer. Coming on at first change, Newcastle's Nicole Goodwin should have had a wicket second ball. A tough chance may be, and it was set to cost New South Wales dearly, as Meg Lanning got stuck right into the Breakers' attack. Coach Neil McDonald could only watch as the Vics racked up a huge total of 5 for 161, but not before a bizarre classic catch. Chasing Aidan over to win, the Breakers lost an early wicket, but then Newcastle's Leah Poulton tried to stop the rot. The one-woman run chase ensuring the Breakers took the title fight to the Southerners.
The state government called it moving forward.
This is iconic, this site, and I can understand why the Newcastle population want to be able to get to use it.
Nobby's Headland has been out of arm's reach for 150 years, but in 19 days, the gates will no longer be shut.
It is very much symbolic of the revitalisation process that this city is going through.
And this is what we've been missing out on. From $1 million views to historic cottages, some that still play a navigational role for our ships. It was the safety aspect that has been holding it back all this time.
The first thing was to secure the site once it was handed over from the Port Authority. We now have that.
Step one will be a $500,000 transformation of this building.
Our involvement at the beginning is to put on an exhibition in one of the cottages.
As for the long-term future,
Sites like this have to be, to some degree, self-sustaining.
I think we've got to be a bit bold about how we think about this site going forward.
Nat Wallace, NBN News. A vision that's now in the developer's hands.
There's no doubt that this particular project will put Swansea on the map.
A multi-million-dollar marina at a place already famous for its fishing and beauty.
The view is to have something like, Port Macquarie, Port Stephens, Coffs Harbour, those sorts of marine environments.
The state government has identified 3 areas of Crown land up for grabs. BuildEv says all could be linked as part of a maritime precinct, but there'll be plenty of obstacles, the environment standing firm.
That area was once a coal loader there, so it has had a fair bit of marine activity in the past.
We're going to go into a process of community consultation, and we'll work with the local residents and other stakeholders. So we don't have a fixed view, and the arrangement we're in with the department is such that there's a high degree of flexibility.
The final plans will be drawn up over 12 months. Until then, the community will get to reel in anything they don't like.
All the rich people just come and take over, they won't be able to fish here.
Not happy about it. I'd rather just leave it alone.
I think a marina over there might be the best thing to ever happen here.
Nat Wallace, NBN News. For a side devoid of several big names, the Knights still left a mark in Greymouth. It was a match of comebacks from Ivan Tuamavave to Chris Houston, who celebrated his return to rugby league with a try. After 12 months out, the big back rower enjoyed a solid game and a big confidence boost. But it was a stack of youngsters who also stood tall. The brains behind this was all youth and finished by another who had a great game at hooker. Certainly not when Simon Williams finished off to draw Newcastle level on the last play of the game. The Knights could have stolen it with the sideline conversion, but given the circumstances of this match, a draw seemed the right result.
Again, struck firmly and in the gap. This is just special batting from Leah Poulton. And yet